introduction. It's really great to be here. Okay, and I am here. My name is Gina, I've introduced, and I'm here to talk to you guys about starting and running a creative business. And I'm going to be using Spatial Dynamics, which is the company that I run with my two co-founders, as a case study and example for this talk. And so the contents of this is I'm going to first talk about Spatial Dynamics, and then we're going to jump into the actual talk of starting and running a creative business. So, introduction, Gina, that's me. Okay, and I am the co-founder of Spatial Dynamics. And my other two co-founders are Quincy and Raymond. They're in the audience today. Some of our projects, these are some of our recent projects these past few years. We really try to work on projects that are impactful in some way. And here's our clients and some awards we won also. And the things that we do, we try to do end-to-end product development in general. So we have all the way from research to strategy, design, and then even some manufacturing liaisoning. And so that brings us to the actual beginning of our talk, which is starting and running a creative business. So I just want to take a quick survey. How many of you here currently do work for yourselves? Okay, cool. And then how many of you would like to work for yourself one day? Awesome. So, in the beginning, like a lot of you guys might be, I was extremely confused. I had a lot of questions, but I was highly motivated. And I totally understand where what it's like to be like, okay, I want to do this thing, but I don't even know how, right? And the thing is, though, with starting a business, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna wake up and start it one day. We did have a lot of advantages that allowed us to take the jump. So in the beginning, we did spend a full year solidifying our studio portfolio before going in full time, and that also helped us build, we also built a client base, and that gave us confidence to actually jump and do our own thing. And we also had deep personal networks and overseas manufacturing, so that was like a specific advantage that we at Spatial Dynamics had at that time. And so, to me, there's about like 3 different kinds of creative businesses. Today, I'm going to be mostly talking about freelancer and agency studios. And so the topics of discussion, I broke this talk down into 3 different parts. The first one is all about logistics of what you need to start the business. The part 2 is all about business building blocks. And part 3 is about people, and part 4 is about yourself. So part 1 is initial logistics. When it comes to building a business, you should definitely get your basics down of legal, financial. You don't want to get into any legal tax issues. You don't want to get sued, all these things. So make sure you have everything taken care of, and that was really important for us. So if you are at the beginning, you probably need to open a business, and usually small business lawyers can help you with that and get your documents that you need. If you don't need things like an operating agreement, usually a CPA can already help you, and you don't need the expensive lawyer to help you with that. And it's a pretty straightforward process. You can probably complete this process within a couple $100 if you're smart about it. The second thing that you need to do is open a business bank account. This is extremely important for tax purposes and also just for accounting purposes. That way you can really, when the tax season comes along, it's really easy just to hand it over to your accountant. It's all very practical, but it makes a huge difference. And number 3 that you need to make sure to have is contracts. So you can find a small business lawyer usually to create these contracts for you. If you don't have them in place, you can have headaches of maybe the client didn't pay you, but then you didn't sign a contract, so then it's a whole thing. So make sure you have your contracts in place. There's 3 that we really rely on heavily. The first one is a design agreement, which is between you and your client when you have a project. The second one is an NDA or mutual NDA. Most people ask for this to talk about just their projects, right? and then a contractor agreement if you are planning on hiring anyone outside of just yourself. So now we go to part 2, which is actually building the business and all the components of a business. So one thing I believe in is that if you are going to work for yourself, you definitely need to understand how businesses work, because even if you're just working for yourself, you're still a business. So, and there's 9 components to any business that I heavily believe in, and this is from the book Business Model Generation. Maybe some of you guys are familiar with it, but this is a book that I heavily relied on in the very beginning. And I'm going to take you through each segment just through the lens of Spatial Dynamics, just to explain how it all comes together. So the first one is customer segments. And the whole idea here is like, who is your client, who is your customer, who are you trying to sell to? And the best way to really figure this out is just creating a persona, like a lot of designers do. And that's something that most of you probably do already know how to do. And just figure out who is your user, what are their pain points, what are they looking for? And so this is just an example persona of someone that Spatial Dynamics might want to go after. Number 2 is value propositions, which is just what makes you special compared to your competitors. And also, what are their pain points and what problems are you trying to solve for them? And so for us, we do end-to-end product development with a heavy emphasis on user research and experience. And then we also specialize in having a streamlined development process for them. And there's no language barrier between oftentimes like American clients and Chinese manufacturers. So we go from someone saying like, we want to build an enclosure for a DNA extraction machine, all the way to the final product. And then channels is just, how are you reaching your customers? Of course, like you need customers to run a business. So these are things like direct networking, you can do organic website traffic, SEO stuff, and social media. There's other channels too, but for me, this is like, or for honestly running a business, this is very much a necessity because you need customers. This next one is customer relationships. You also need to establish what kind of relationship you would like to have with your customer. You can have a more transactional relationship, or you can have a more personal relationship. It's up to you, depending on the kind of business you run. We like to have a more personal relationship, so we just offer personal services in exchange for money. And the next one is all about money. So how are you going to get money, right? Because once again, without customers, but also without money, you don't have a business. So there's transactional, and then there's services. There's all different ways you can earn money, but you need to figure out how you're going to earn your money. And then there's also key resources, which is what you need to deliver what you say you're going to deliver to your customer. And when it comes to running like a studio or being a freelancer, there might be a lot of different kinds of things. You might have either intellectual property, you might have physical property, you might need even human capital, insurance, like there's a whole list of things that come with it, but you need to know exactly what you need. And then there's key activities too, which is also what do you need to be good at to deliver value for your customers. And this, for a service business like freelancing or agency, you need to have good design, you need to have good communication, you might even need like your own personal branding, versus like, if you did something more like a product business though, then you might want to focus on like design, manufacturing, retailing, distribution, things like that. So activities are different depending on your business, and you need to figure that out for yourself. And then key partners. So oftentimes it's like with entrepreneurship, you think that you're like a lone wolf or something. That's not true. You need other people to run your business, whether or not that's like through clients or through investors, producers, buyers, things like that. But you need to figure out who are the people that you need regularly to make your business happen. And then last but not least, cost. So how much is all of this thing going to cost? In the beginning for us, I think the biggest shock was how expensive it is to run through everything. It's really important for you to get clear your numbers and understand how your money flows within your business, where it's going, and how much it really costs to run this whole thing. And so all of this is, well, the sections are all from the book Business Model Generation. I personally highly recommend this book. So, highly recommend it. But out of all of these lessons, the most important lesson for me was mostly just put yourself out there. No one's going to buy from you if they don't know about you. So just, everything else is important, but just put yourself out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. And part 3, so this brings us to part 3, which is people, which I go off of 3 major rules when it comes to people. Number 1 is practicing effective communication. And when you're running your own business, you have to constantly communicate with all the different people that you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis, whether that's your accountant or a client or like a business partner. And okay, and so there's the first book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a classic, but at least it helps you understand how to interact with people on a day-to-day basis. Number 2 is The Effective Executive. It helps you understand how to run effective meetings and get your point across so people can do what you want them to do. And also number 3 is Never Split the Difference, which is a book on negotiation. When you're doing your own business, you're constantly negotiating, especially with clients, with prices, and you do not want to compromise on that, because if you cannot get the price that you want, then, well, it's gonna be difficult. Number 2, okay, don't burn bridges. This is one that a lot of my freelance and my contractor and my business friends always say, don't burn bridges from your job. I know it's really tempting to like go out with a ball of fire from your job and just say like, screw this, I own my own now. Don't do that. And the reason why is because a lot of these previous employers and relationships could become extremely helpful for you in the future. So for example, one of our first clients at Spatial Dynamics was actually my old boss, and he was kind enough to give us for the business to begin with. And that really helped us solidify our understanding of how to actually run the studio for a while before we took off and took on other clients. Number 2 is network like your life depends on it, because it does. So a lot of times when it comes to like freelance and agency work, all of the business is done through your network. It's really hard to at least from our experience, SEO optimization and all those other things are not that successful. We find that the best clients come through direct networking. So you really have to just put yourself out there and just go talk to people. Okay, and this is part 4, which is self. And there's 5 considerations that I put in cat memes because I like cats. So, and also these are considerations because I'm not you, I can't force you to do things, but it's just some thoughts that I think would be highly valuable if you wanted to do this. So think about what you can give in value to the other party, not what you can get. So in business, it's all about what you can solve and what problems you can solve and what pain points you can solve for the other person. That's how you get them to buy. You can't go over there and beg them for money. They're not gonna give you a PD project. That's not a good idea. That's not how you do business. So figure out what you can give in value. Number 2 is keep learning and enjoy the process. Oftentimes you have no idea what you're doing. There's 10 million fires burning. You don't know what to do, but you just have to have the personality to just keep learning and figure out the problems one by one. And personally, I'm a very aggressive audiobook listener. That's my way of learning, but for you it might be different, might be podcasts, blogs, whatever. And number 3 is don't prescribe to a single idea what success looks like. So once you start working for yourself, you start seeing all these online groups and agencies flexing all their successes and whatnot, giving tips on what to do. But the thing is, it's even though it's good to have a community like that online, keep in mind that what has worked for them may not necessarily work for you. So focus on your business and figure out your problems that you need to solve within your business. Number 4 is go where you are valued and learn to say no. So when you first start, you're gonna get a lot of people who want you to work for exposure. And maybe you even already had this experience, because a lot of designers do. It's like, oh, can you design me a logo that's good exposure? Ideally, don't do that, but if you must, make sure that you get some significant value out of it. But ideally, you go where you are valued and the money will come. And number 5 is take care of yourself and have fun. With business, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, so just make sure to listen to your body and enjoy the process. But sometimes you just have to take a break. If you're burning out, that's not good. It's not good for your business, it's not good for you, so learn to take a break when it's time. And so if you want to learn more, you can scan this QR code. It goes to my LinkedIn and our websites and whatnot. Also, in the spirit of trying new things, I recently tried to launch a YouTube channel, and I don't know if it's going to work, but let's see where it goes. Thank you. So I guess now is for the questions. Yes?
So, years ago, a design firm told me for every $1 they bring in, they make a nickel in profit. So, is this one on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the amount of money you actually make at the end of the day, I mean, I'm talking about pure profit, all expenses and taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you, for every $1 you bring in, what does it actually equate to?
I'm not going to tell you any exact numbers, but it is true. For design agencies, you really do not, the margins are not that high, but it really depends on how lean you can run your business, especially as technology is constantly evolving. There are ways to make it leaner and faster and delivering, you can deliver better product. So my suggestion is just keep pushing and just keep trying to improve your process and see how cheap you can make your process for how good of a value of a final deliverable you can make.
Yeah, I'm curious, what is your process for deciding when to bring somebody else on, whether it's contractors or additional help? How do you make that judgment call? Because I find that very difficult to understand. You don't know what's coming down the road.
Yeah.
How do you grow? But if you don't grow, you're stagnant. So what's that process like?
I mean, to be quite honest with you, you never really know, but the thing is, our sense is just if we're overwhelmed, we should probably start delegating tasks. And also for any tasks that, is below our pay grade to do, significantly below our pay grade to do, we should probably delegate, especially if it's a systematic task that can be repeated over and over again. But yeah, you just have to take the leap and see, can you afford this person? Are you willing to afford the person? And how big are you trying to grow?
Thanks.
I'll just speak up. Were you working in-house before starting this, or were you working in a consultancy, or were you a contractor before?
Yeah, so I was working at a couple different, I was working at a consultancy before in New York, and at that time, it was once Spatial started taking off, I was like, okay, maybe I can't really do this 2 full-time jobs, I'm gonna burn out. So that's when we started thinking about doing this full-time, is when we were getting really tired and we were like, okay, we have to choose one or the other.
We have time for one more.
Hi, so I know you said don't burn bridges, but I was wondering if besides that,
Yeah.
are there, how did you establish your initial client base, like you said before you built out your portfolio? How did you make those connections that let you say, I have enough to start my own firm?
So there's 2 ways that we went about it. One was just personal connections. We just friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. So it's going off of somewhere and then asking for a reference to someone else. That's one way that we found success in. The other way is just Googling startups that recently got funded or is trying have a really bad 3D printer prototype and then just pestering the hell out of them and just being consistent with that. So, and maybe there's other ways, but those are the ways that we found that has worked.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.